Hi, my name is Laura, and today we're going to be presenting you inmateData, a new way of understanding the inmate population in Colombia. Colombia's current situation regarding prison is very controversial and delicate due to the lack of capacity and adequate legislation. That is why today we're going to talk about recidivism in Colombia, an analysis of inmates in jail between 2010 and 2019. But first, let's meet the team. Sergio Bernal, Catherine Lopez, Daniel Hoyos, Snyder Guerrero, and myself, Laura Goyeneche. According to the director of IMPEC, we have a problem regarding overcrowding and the resocialization of prisoners. In 2019, the overcrowding percentage was 49%. In jails, with a capacity of 80,000 individuals, we have 118 inmates. Moreover, 11% of the total population of inmates in Colombia reoffend, and at least 25% reoffend more than once. This is problematic because the more reoffenders, the more overcrowding, and the more problematics within jails. Now, you might be wondering what is recidivism. This refers to a person that relapses into criminal behavior. In other words, a former inmate that comes back to jail. When analyzing our target population, we found out that men account for 92%, that 77% only reach primary school, and that on average, they have 32 years old. In addition, we found that only 10 crimes account for 87% of the total crimes committed by inmates. We identified as most common, such as theft, weapons manufacturing, narcotics traffic, and homicides. We also found that 50% had been in jail less than a year and a half, that 75% present a severity score of less than 4, and the calculation of the severity score considers both the volume and the seriousness of the crime. In terms of recidivism, we found that out of 32% of the individuals that had been in jail more than twice, 50% came back to jail in less than 2 years. We define our objective as characterizing the jail population in Colombia and their recidivism risk. Why? Because we want to ensure an adequate formulation of the criminal policy. This is important because we're able to provide key and practical data analysis, provide key insights for making better strategies, to guarantee an analysis focused on equity, and finally to contribute to a better policy making. Now I'm going to present you our machine learning solution. First, we gather data from the Human Development Index, inmateData, and the Criminal Code. Then we store and integrate our data. We build features such as recidivism and time in jail, and we build the severity score. In our EDA, we include a survivor analysis, which was a great input for our modeling section, which was divided in two, unsupervised and supervised modeling. And finally, we deploy our results. Digging into our modeling section, first we have clustering, with the objective of identifying the type of reoffenders and their characteristics. First, we transform our data using PCA and boxcox. Then we did our modeling using tenfold cross-validation, a grid search, and using two algorithms, K-mean and Gaussian mixture. Then we jump to evaluation, and finally, for the interpretation, we build a multi-level classification model so that we can calculate the future importance by cluster. Then we jump to our supervised strategy, with the objective of predicting the risk of recidivism within 2 years of the release date from jail. First, we start with our modeling with a 5-fold cross-validation, grid search, and 7 algorithms, from an interpretable model such as logistic regression and a more complex such as gradient boosting. Then, in our evaluation, we focus on precision, recall, and F1 score. Our main objective is to maximize precision or minimize the false positive, mainly because it's more costly for the Ministry of Justice and society to fail to identify high-risk individuals. In addition, in our evaluation section, we included a parameter K, which identified individuals with the highest likelihood of recidivism. We did this because we are assuming that the Ministry of Justice has limited resources. So we included and we optimized precision at K%. And finally, we did the feature importance and interpretation of our best model. And this is our solution, inmateData. Again, a new way of understanding the inmate population in Colombia. Now I'm going to pass it to Daniel, who is going to present the application and the main results. You can scan the QR code to follow the live demo with us.
Thank you, Laura. So I'm going to show you guys the dashboard that we created. First of all, here is the QR code in case you missed it and you want to enter the application and interact with it. One of the most important things that we wanted to accomplish was to understand the top 10 crimes, which is important because we use it to create a severity score and measures the seriousness of the crime. We also related the crimes against the upper classifications in the Colombian justice system. Also, we wanted to understand the density of the reoffenders across the regions. We found out that Antioquia, Valle del Cauca, and Bogota are the places where the most quantity of reoffenders are secluded. Also, when analyzing the age and the education level, we found out that the majority of reoffenders are between 30 to 40 years old and also have a second cycle of education level, which means that they have studied until the third to fifth grade. We have almost 80,000 reoffenders in our dataset, but also almost 142,000 bookings, which means that each inmate has committed at least 2 crimes. When analyzing the problem with machine learning, we wanted to model the probability of recidivism or the risk of recidivism. We did this across different regions and we found out that Valle del Cauca, Nariño, Putumayo, and Arauca have the highest risk amongst all of the regions. We also modeled the risk across time frames, in this case, 1 year and 2 years. In this case, we found out that after 2 years in 2 years there is a higher probability of recidivism. When analyzing also with different models, we wanted to cluster the population and understand the categories within them. We found out a couple of features that divide the clusters, and we found out 5 clusters. In this case, the features are education level, marital status, the jail in which they are secluded, and also the criminal severity score. We also tried to understand how the probability of recidivism declined over 2 years, and we crossed that information against study and work activities when they did it in jail. And we see that almost after 12 years, the probability of recidivism drops almost to 0. We also created a feature called the hazard, which is the probability of recidivism against or divided by the complement, and plotted against the severity and the Human Development Index. We see here that for lower severities, there's a high probability of recidivism, and also for lower values of the Human Development Index, there's a higher level of recidivism. There are a few of the conclusions that we found out, and I'll leave it up to Sergio to continue the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Daniel, for that awesome explanation. Now we finish it all with some caveats and recommendations we like to mention. For the limitations part, as we mentioned earlier, we only work with treatment group or population who only reoffend, with no control group that limit our predictive solution. We stand out this point because we are aware this information is easy to obtain in the future. We had no information of the first time the inmate was captured. This could also help expand our scope and correct some bias we could have. Also, lack of relevant information like out-of-jail features like job search or tailored programs could also help. For the recommendations part, we have what we believe could complement Ministry of Justice efforts towards the objective of this project. First, we have those key features that, after characterizing our population and prediction risk models, need to be taken into account in the decision-making process, like education, severity of crime, marital status, jail they were paying their sentence, and the time they had spent in jail before. Also, we recommend risk score models to determine who needs help and prioritize based on the risk prediction of reoffending. And from a public safety perspective, it is as well important to take into account the type or severity of the offense that we implement into our models. Last but not least, conclusions and future work. First, policymakers should invest in deploying risk models which will help them determine who to help and prioritize in terms of cost-related restrictions. Second, we should expand the model by including additional inmate characteristics and socio-demographic features in a smaller geographical unit. And last, Data-driven decision, as we deeply believe that data-driven decisions are the best option, we have learned they are best used when experts with domain knowledge evaluate them and use it as a tool. Thank you very much.